Hi everyone, my name is Teru. I explain Japanese business through real companies and case studies. For today's topic, I'm going to be talking about Disney, specifically its theme park here in Japan, and how $1 billion opportunity Disney gave away in Japan. Before I start, as usual, let me just quickly introduce myself first. I was born and raised in Japan till graduating high school here. After that, I studied abroad in the US for college. Post-graduation, I came back to Japan and now I work at the multinational corporation, which basically means they have headquarters outside of Japan, but they have branches here in Japan. Okay, let me start with the interesting fact. Disney actually doesn't own Tokyo Disneyland. I mean, like zero. It is 100% owned and operated by Oriental Land companies. I'll just call Oriental Land. And just to clarify, when I say Tokyo Disneyland, it means it consists of two theme parks here in Japan. One is Tokyo Disneyland, and the other is Tokyo Disney Sea. So, but for today's video, I'm just gonna call Tokyo Disneyland. But basically, it means two theme parks here in Japan. So the Tokyo Disneyland opened in 1983, so about 43 years ago. Again, it is 100% owned and operated by Oriental Land. So then you may ask, what does Disney do with Tokyo Disneyland, right? Like, what is the relationship with Disney and Tokyo Disneyland or Oriental Land? Well, so Disney has licensed business model with Oriental Land, and basically Disney let Oriental Land use their IP, like intellectual property, such as name itself, Disney, and as well as the characters and like stories, and also the know-how. So that's the involvement of Disney with Oriental Land. So you may be wondering, like, why Disney chose license model instead of owning some share of theme park here in Japan? Well, because they wanted less risk at a time. Because one, Japan was unproven market, and Tokyo Disneyland is very first international Disney theme park outside of states. But when I say Disney theme park, again, it doesn't actually mean owned by Disney, but rather it is owned by Oriental Land. But anyhow, Tokyo Disneyland was very first, and after that, they opened in Paris, Hong Kong, and Shanghai, all over the places. So that's one of the reasons why, like, Japan was unproven market, but also it cost 180 billion yen, which approximately $1.4 billion at a time. So just imagine as a perspective of Disney, right? Like, it was a huge investment. Like, spent $1.4 billion in 90s. And like, Japan at the time was unproven market, so it was a huge risk financially. So I would say Disney made smart financial decision, which was, again, like, instead of owning shares of Tokyo Disneyland, but they rather chose license model, which basically means royalties over ownership. Um, so instead of investing any money to Tokyo Disneyland, but they chose royalties, which basically means that, okay, Oriental Land, you can use our names and IP, but we will charge you, like, 10 to 15%. But when does decision get suck? Well, that's when this theme park gets so successful so that they cannot claim share. And that's the worst thing that could have happened to Disney. And unfortunately, it happened to them. So turned out Japan loved Disney. There's 10 million visitors within its first year. And then it was already profitable by 1986, which was 3 years after they opened. And according to the financial statement of Oriental Land, they made $3.5 billion in revenues in 2026. I mean, again, Disney cannot have majority of this $3.5 billion. The only thing they can get out of this $3.5 billion is whatever the percentage that they agree with the royalties, which could be 10 or 15%. Instead of, let's say, they had some share of Disneyland, they could claim more from this $3.5 billion. Just for the comparison, Disneyland Paris, which is 100% owned by Disneyland, they made about $2.6 billion in revenues, um, which is still $1 billion lower than Japan. Just imagine if Disney back in the day decided to own Disneyland, this is the money they could have earned. Hence the title of $1 billion opportunity that is lost. Here is the actual financial statement that I got from Oriental Land. The park doesn't just sell tickets. So here, again, 2026 March, theme park segment revenue is about total 568 billion yen, which again equal to $3.5 billion. The half of that, 289 billion yen, comes from attractions and shows, so like, admissions. And interestingly, 30% of total revenue comes from merchandise, 167 billion yen. which equal almost like $1 billion. So 30% is like quite a lot of pie, right? Like, 30% of that come from merchandise. And here is the interesting thing that contributed to this 30%, which is Japanese omiyage culture. So omiyage is basically the gifting culture here in Japan. Like, souvenirs when you go different countries or states or these leisure places. And Japanese visitors don't always buy for themselves. So omiyage culture can be seen anywhere here in Japan, like social settings, whether at a home, at a school, or at workplace. So, for example, those consumers, they trip to Disneyland, they enjoy it, and then before they go back home, they stop by at the merchandise store within Tokyo Disneyland, and then they buy those souvenirs. The one in the picture, the chocolate one. So if you're a Japanese or if you grew up in Japan, like you've seen this at least once because it's that popular. Let's say you're school students or even like, you have family members. So they usually buy those snacks, right? That is separated by individually, the package so that they can easily hand out to people. So, they buy this, they go home, and then whether they give it to siblings or other part of family members, or if you're school students, next day when they go to school, they hand it out or they give it to, your classmates and friends. So this gifting culture is quite strong in Japan, and that likely contributed to, increasing the merchandise of Tokyo Disneyland. So the business lesson that we can learn from this is that risk management has a price. So again, Disney at a time made a smart financial decision to save money, but still securing the money from royalties. But because Disneyland was so successful here in Japan, they were not able to claim the most of the ownership or revenues that they earned. Instead, the only thing they can make money out of it is the royalties. But Disney did learn the lesson because, again, Tokyo Disneyland was very first international Disney theme park. So after that, like all these Paris and Hong Kong and Shanghai, they have share of the parks. Not 100%. The only 100% is Paris, as far as I understand. And for Hong Kong, like it's a joint venture with local government, and Shanghai is with another similar local company. But at least they claim like more than 45% usually, or 100% for Paris. So Japan is the only unique park that Disney doesn't have any claim to it. And lastly, the local consumer culture can create unexpected opportunities that tied into, such as omiyage culture, right? Understanding the Japanese consumer behaviors and the culture of omiyage, and Oriental Land was smart because when you go to Disneyland here in Japan, after go through the gate, the very first thing that you see on the side is the merchandise stores that they sell clothings and those little snacks that I just show. So basically, those consumers when they arrive at Disney, right? So they enjoy the park attractions, and then by the time they go home, they just stop by those souvenir shops, they buy those snacks, and then they leave the stores. So Disney, or rather Oriental Land, was purposefully put those merchandise stores near the gate so that everyone has exposure to it by the time they leave. And lastly, my thought, if you look at this video as a perspective of Disney, I mean, I wouldn't say again it's a failure of Disney or anything like that. I do still think that at a time Disney made smart financial decision. It just turned out the huge loss because Tokyo Disneyland was so successful. But if you look at the perspective of Oriental Land, I mean, it is a super successful business case, right? And I was wondering like why Oriental Land chose Disney and why Oriental Land was willing to pay everything and spend so much money to build Disneyland here in Japan. There gotta be some reasons, right? Strong reasons. And I did research and then I found out the founder and executive of Oriental Land at a time, they traveled to the United States and then they went to newly opened Disney theme park in California. It seems like they were so moved by the entertainment quality of Disney theme park in California, and then it almost felt like it's their mission to bring the same inspiration and dream that they got from California and Disney to Japanese people, especially Japanese children. I mean, that is a beautiful story, actually. Lastly, the fun fact again is that this like license model, right? You may wonder, okay, how long is it gonna be? Is it gonna be indefinitely? It seems like this license contract is gonna last until 2076, and now it's 2026, so they have about 50 years. Good luck to Disney. Alright, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and consider subscribing to my channel. And I'll see you in the next video.